Cool. Hello, everyone. So I think I have a little slide with me on my little one. I'm Roland. I worked at Product. I joined Pantheon, so same company as David, who just spoke a year ago, and I'm going to speak about content management. But I'd love to know you a little bit more first. If I can adjust a little bit my talk and just make it conversational sometime, that would be nice. So how many of you are developers? How many are more like editors or like interface people? Okay. How many are more project managers? Or yeah. And how many are using Drupal only? Not so much. And for the one not using Drupal, what else do you use?
I use a CMS called .cms.
Yeah? Yeah? Universal CMS. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how they call it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I joined Pantheon. I've been in the CMS world for a while. I was working for another open source company back in the days, which never made it big in the US, but called Easy Publish. Maybe some of you have been facing Easy Publish. An interesting one where I led the product for a long time. And today I want to speak about one of our products that is really, it's also funny because actually I think you started all this, David. I think you made the early prototype of Content Publisher and you were hacking on your side, like, and that became a product now. So I will talk about this product, but I will also talk more about the problem that we try to solve and really many things around this. And this talk is a little bit improvised because I was pulled in yesterday, so I didn't make a special talk today, but I pulled a lot of things that drove us to develop our product, and I will demo you this new product, which is called Content Publisher. As a teaser, before we get there, I just changed the title of the talk because I see that in another room there's a talk which is Decoupled Drupal. Are we there? And actually, this is a talk about decoupled Drupal, but decoupling Drupal the other way around. Like there's been this thing with WordPress and Drupal that decoupling them to put something else on the front end of things and keeping it for the back end. And what we will talk about here is decoupling in the other way. Decoupling, considering WordPress or Drupal or some other CMS are really good at running websites, but it's maybe not what you want for your editorial backend. So that's a little bit what I will be talking about and showing and presenting things. So I have a couple of few slides that just me playing with how I feel about CMS, how I felt about CMS last year when I met Zach and Chris and they pitched me the product. I was like, I did CMS since 98. Vignette Story Server, I don't know if some people worked on that. And I went through many things. I named them on the slide before, but I really came to this state, like in 2020, state of mind, I've been doing CMS my whole life, and have we really solved the problem that CMS is supposed to solve? I think CMS are great, and they made great stuff. We can run websites, but did we really solve the problem of building a website? When I looked at my marketing team working on releasing a product on our website, marketing pages, blog, and so on, the process is super, super hard still. It's really difficult, actually. So me and many other people, and I know that Zach felt the same way when I talked with Zach last year when I joined the team, we felt like CMS has been basically trying to reinvent itself, but still facing a lot of problems, and maybe we needed some innovation in the way we approach the problem. Not to say that CMSs are bad, and not to say that Drupal CMS will not succeed. I think Drupal CMS is looking super promising, but ultimately, will it really solve in a more than marginal way how we solve the problem of publishing to the web? I don't know. And that's back to what you were saying, David. We did some research. The situation today is like this. We have developers, they use tools, GitHub, WordPress, Drupal, Next.js now a lot. We have marketers, they use project management tool. That's Asana, it could be something else, it could be a spreadsheet. There are writers who use Word or Google Docs or Notion a little bit, other tools. Designers who use other things. And the reason why building a website and publishing web content is difficult is that web content requires all those people. People who think that web content is just text, that's totally wrong. And I'm talking about web publishing, not publishing. Publishing is a different story. But web publishing still requires all those skills, and the process is actually quite broken. And there are many things that makes us think that now is a good time to maybe try to look at this in a different way. There's a lot of things that improved in terms of cloud services, and especially we will talk a lot about Google Drive, Google Doc, which made some significant progress. Actually, in my old CMS company, Easy Publish, Easy Systems, in 2006, we were using the same paradigm, using Open Document as an editorial tool for people to enter content, using XML RPC to send things in the database of the CMS, and then publishing the website. And that was kind of cool, but desktop software. You need to deploy desktop software. It's hard to have adoption and so on. The reality is Google Doc came, well, I'll get back to that after, but Google Doc came into, with the cloud, like the cloud text processor, and it's been a revolution for the ease of use, but most importantly for collaboration. Collaboration, how people can share permissions based on having everybody working on the same document and not having to share files anymore. That's been a revolution. So that's one of the. I have these 5 slides which are to me more, let's say, consideration or drive for us in our product. That's kind of the big problem we want to solve. The other thing that we know from looking at our customers is that what we want to solve is not always like really rocket science. It's sometimes very simple. The problem, something that tells us that people don't like the CMS is that when we look at the core web vitals of our customers, there's plenty which totally fail at getting the basics such as description meta or alt text and images. This just is a very basic thing to do if the tool was fit to the user. But people don't do it because actually, maybe people are not, the writers are actually far away from the people who are loading the content, and maybe you have an operator who is loading the content on the CMS, and this operator doesn't know anything about SEO or whatever. And so, yes, the CMS can do that, but as a matter of fact, people don't really use those capabilities. They don't understand, it's too complex, it doesn't work. And we can make, maybe not for all the use case, but with a different approach, maybe we could solve this in a way, in a simpler way. I have this one which is all about content quality, but the big idea that I just want to bring here, without going into too much detail, because this was, I truly believe, well, content quality matter for SEO, content quality matter for user experience, of course, and I think to get quality content, you need quality editorial tools. And I think it's crucial, and the better we will be on the tools, the better our website, our user experience, and so on will be. So that's also what we are after down the road. And down the road, we are trying to, the approach we take with this integration with Google Docs is, I think, is getting back to a challenge I've seen in the CMS world since 15 years, maybe when the mobile screen started to come around, you started to find a lot of people like me who are content architect, or I don't know, content strategist. Some people, sometimes they call them, like back in the day we would say content management expert or whatever. People who think content needs to be structured and you need really a separation of concern, and content is actually, without structured content you cannot create good user experience in the end, especially to adapt different screens. That's right. There are people like, I don't know, anybody know Karen McGrain? She's a great content strategist. She had a fantastic talk about adaptive content. I've been drinking the Kool-Aid. I love this. I'm living with that. Structured content makes so much sense when it comes to building a website. The big problem is when content doesn't happen like this. Content happens as ideas in your brain, on a scratch pad, on a notebook, in a Google Doc. And there's a gap, there's a chasm to cross at some point to bring this to a structured approach. But you cannot say, we will do structured content, we will create web forms with 73 fields, and give this to the creative minds. That doesn't work. Like, that's killing creativity. So I think at this time, especially with LLM progress, we can talk a little bit about GenAI. You will see that there's a part which is GenAI powered in the tool. I think GenAI is really good at that, at finding structure where the structure is not yet laid out, but it's there in the content, basically. So we'll speak about that. And then we'll speak about speed, because the other big problem we try to solve, we work not only, but we work with some big publishers, media, and for them, when we ask them what's the metric is just speed, productivity. We work with one that is using a web CMS that replaced an editorial CMS which was made for the print. And typically how they measured the success, they basically went A to Z in the process of creating a story. They recorded it, and they just looked face to face, and that was half time. And now they want to go faster. So I think what we are after in this exercise that I will be showing or demonstrating is also getting more speed in the way we can publish. More ease, but more speed. So this was just to say, I think we are looking at doing things in a different way. That's really innovation. I think people get excited, but it's also really difficult to change habits. So we are at this stage where we have our product now in beta, and we try to expand this. I'm happy to talk here, not that I love to talk, but I like to talk, but I'm happy to talk here mostly because I hope I will get some feedback. So I'm a product manager. My point is to get any feedback from anyone who has inputs, and that's what I'm after, basically. Our approach is basically to take content in a different way, because what we do, and maybe I can then here touch about Pantheon. How many of you knows Pantheon, by the way? Because David was speaking. But yeah. So Pantheon, before I joined, actually, I was thinking Pantheon is, well, it's a Drupal and WordPress hosting company. And yes, it is. But it's much more than that. I realized that first, Pantheon has had features such as multi-dev, which are not just about hosting. They are about facilitating the workflow of the developers. And I think then I met Pantheon leadership, and I understood that the vision behind Pantheon was more that, not just running things, but more facilitating the workflow of making the web happen with a nice vision. And so that's what Pantheon did at this level for a long time. At the technical level with WordPress and Drupal, who are the CMSs, and with facilitating our developers and also functional users can use those tools to run their web, to build and run their web. And that's WebOps. But back to the slides before, WebOps involve also the other personas, designers and content people. And Pantheon is ambitious, so Pantheon wants to look beyond that. And maybe, David, you can chime in if you want in terms of vision, because you're with Zach and John, it's your baby, basically.
Well, a lot of this, I mean, predates even Pantheon. Yeah. Like when some of this dates back to when I was working with Josh on stuff for The Economist. Yeah. Where, like, when we implemented Drupal for The Economist, we needed to integrate it with their publishing workflow. And they have a publishing workflow where all the content starts in their publishing tool system, and then the website and the print are both driven from their editorial and content workflow systems. And most major publishers work the same way. Whether you are, like, the New York Times has a custom integration from Google Docs over to their own publishing tools. All the content at News Corp starts in Google Docs. Almost any major content creating organization has their own answer to this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of our vision long-term for Pantheon is to be the platform that lets all those people work in a very automated and fast and easy way together on the same workflow, because that's the same workflow. But we started this project by tackling the Google Doc piece. You were talking about numbers. Those are different numbers, but first we are a Google Workspace user, so it was also, I think it's participating in our choice to start there and not with Microsoft. But also I think Google, with Google Docs, killed it in 10 years. They catched up on Microsoft, and now they have the momentum with them. This is a survey for like the people getting out of college, how much, what type of choice they would do typically. 86% they go to Google Docs. So we think not only it's here, but it's here to stay, and it's increasingly being the tool that people will use to write stories. So we're trying to build something that that's what I call an integration layer. We are trying to build something that looks like this. You create content in your tool of choice, in that case Google Doc, and you will send this through Content Publisher, which is a content integration layer, and from there it will go to your website. And to your website, this includes, if I just go to the next one, that's why actually I talk about decoupling Drupal in the other way. If I look with a little bit more detailed approach to what this content integration layer is, it's basically able to capture the content from the tool that is used for authoring and doing a lot of things to prepare that content for the web, things which are optimizing for SEO but also for other things, fact-checking, controlling, enriching, relating content to other content, and so on, and then delivering this to the website. And that's where we basically, the tool we are building, we decided to build it for all the website technology that we support at Pantheon, which are Drupal, WordPress, and Next.js. So that's a little bit the model. We are basically making a middleware, which will let us operate the content in a novel way, where instead of using manual processes to load content in the CMS, you will be able, from the source, to streamline the content up to your website, with a level of governance and control in between, which deals with the specificity of what the web is, basically. Is that making any sense?
Where is version control taking place in this model?
At many places, actually. Actually, everywhere. Yeah, you of course you have a great version control tool in Google Docs. I think revision management in Google Docs is fantastic, and you can always use this for the story itself. Now, the meta that will go around the story are not necessarily stored in Google Docs, and at this level, you will also want to have versioning capabilities for sure. And then I'm saying also at the end, because of course the tool we use have version control, but in this model actually, content doesn't matter here if you have version control at this level, because you will push it there. And so I don't know, you call this bodiless WordPress, Drupal, and so on. What I suggest is I show you a little bit the tool, and then we can continue the discussion around it, and maybe it will create some questions. So I will try to show it to you, even if you are here. We are in a Drupal event, and you guys are Drupal and not everything. I will show you the three technology actually, so that you have an idea how it works with the three technology, because it's very different. I want to start with I want to start from the user perspective, so I will show you first how does it feel to use the tool as an end user, as an editor. So you're basically working in Google Doc, and typically I'm alone on this one, which this is just a demo content that I just randomly picked up. But typically that's where you would have concurrent editing. That's where you would have. I know that some people try to bring concurrent editing to Drupal and collaboration in real time. I think that's really well real-time collaboration, and the content happens, no doubt. It's so well done by Google that I can't see how it could be different.
Fire me a link.
Huh?
Fire me a link if you want.
Oh yeah, thank you.
We didn't plan this ahead of time. This part. I just happened to be here. That's everybody up. Here you go. So yeah, that's where collaboration happened, and maybe you want to tweak this, David. You probably need. We'll request access.
Yeah. View. So all those small things, they are just so well done. Actually, it's a good way to show it. This is actually really hard to replicate. So David should be here. So I'm an editor. I start to work there. We want to keep the editor working there with his team as long as possible. And at some point, he will need to use Content Publisher. So I'm already set up on my Google Workspace account, but to show you how it works, This is our documentation, and if you want to use it, you just go on Google Marketplace and you can install the add-on. When you install this add-on, you will have in your Google Doc app, you will have tools on the right, you will find Content Publisher right here. So now I get back to here, David is here. Can we tighten this language? I don't know.
Just like,
I know. I will open this, and typically I will do one thing. I will actually do. I'm not sure. Tight. Oh, sorry. I will do it. I'm actually not sure exactly on this version if this will.
Oh, I wasn't. Yeah, I was just like throwing random comments.
No, but that's interesting because.
I don't think suggestions will make it out to.
No, they should not. But with the multi-tab, we had an issue, so that's why I'm saying.
Okay.
So I open my Content Publisher here, and I will describe a little bit what happens there. The first thing is you will have to connect your document, and you will have to actually give the authorization to Pantheon for reading the document and doing stuff with it. So I already clicked on a box, I approved, and you will connect it to a collection. A collection of documents can be used to create a website. Initially, we called it connect to a website, but actually that's not that simple, or actually we think it's more powerful. A same collection of documents can be used on several websites, and also one website could use several collections of documents because actually they concern different people, or they are different content types, or they are different things. So I will connect to the playground to start the demo, and after I will show you other connection. I connect to my playground. I have David here. We could work on this. That was actually a content to illustrate my slide on unstructured content. My point was, for a long time, content strategists, and even now, a lot of them are really stubborn, and they don't want to imagine we let people do whatever they want in Google Docs. So it's a fight for us. And I think there's a stupid war between that. There was a great article from Karen McGrain, the war between blobs and chunks. And my belief is, and I don't mean to say this is a political talk as politic as the one from Alex at Evolving Drupal. I don't know if you were there, but I think there's a two-state solution in there. We can live with chunks and blobs. I'm working there. I like my title. I don't know if David will like it. And at some point, we want both of us to have an idea how this will look like on the web. That's one of the things that really Headless CMS totally overlooked with their separation of concern, is that you can't really easily know how it looks on the web, and except if you put some effort, heavy effort, to redo what is done on the website. In that solution, the preview is thought so that it's a must. So I'm an editor. I can open the real-time preview of how my document will look on the web. Keep in mind, it's not published yet. It's really a round trip to the website technology, but it's not published. Anonymous people could not see it. I could share it with my teammates, share preview URL, but it's just a preview. It's a nice preview which gives you an idea to see how it looks like on mobile. I also have the talk from Karen on a responsive device or full screen. And the nice thing about it is that I can actually work here.
I can fix your M dash.
I can actually accept this.
Yep.
Yeah, you did it? Here we go. So you saw automatically this was, thank you, I didn't even see it. That was fast. Anything I would do on the, anything on the, we call it a two-state solution, right? Solution. You could drag and drop other images. You could do, so images up randomly, I don't know why, but it's coming here. What I want to highlight here is that my team has been working a lot on making it so that we are not just putting a Google Docs on the web. We are doing actually much more. We are doing more in the sense that when you have someone who wants to do this because he thinks it's much cooler to do this, you know, it doesn't go through. Or who think that putting it right will give us more, like, you're louder. No, you're not. There's a design system here, and that's on purpose. We want to get all the content structure, semi-structure from Google Doc, but we want to filter all the things which are pure styling, because that's the goal. And that's actually one of the that's a tricky thing to do. So we are working on that. We are preparing this piece of content. When we are good enough, we can publish. I will do this thing. I will publish it. Before publishing it, I can do a couple of things which belongs to the collection. This is about structuring the content. I was thinking about moving from unstructured to structure. Now we try to structure it. First, this content can exist in the context of a collection of content, which is a tree. So you could create section, subsection, and I could place this content in the coffee subsection. I don't know what it means, but that's what I can do. So I could decide this or keep it without a section. That's okay. Then I have metadata that are augmenting the content. That's typically what you will use for SEO. I was talking about description being never filled up by writers. That's probably because that's the people loading in the CMS at the end of the process that are doing this, and they are short on time or whatsoever. So we try to make it easier, and that's typically a use case where LLMs for me are really good. I'm basically calling the GenAI engine, which is used by the service, for summarizing the document and suggesting description. Maybe some people think otherwise. Me, I'm super interested in GenAI. I think it goes so fast, it's great tool. I don't believe in AGI, in universal intelligence, and I also don't believe GenAI will take over creative work. That's why the way we treat it is more a tool which is always coming as a suggestion to the creator, to the author, to go faster in his work. But we are not considering it as a tool to write, basically. There's a great article, by the way, of Tim O'Reilly recently, which published something about that on the software development side of things. So,
how are you doing the LLM integration? Are you offering a choice to the companies, or are you doing one size fits all?
No. So, well, keep in mind this is beta. So this exact beta. So we use Google stack of services, and David, feel free to chime in. But we use one which is called Vertex AI, and Vertex AI allows you to choose the LLM you want to use. And this one is, I think, on Gemini 1.5, if I'm correct. But if we would like to choose another one, we can. We have not yet exposed this to our customers.
I guess maybe we could take it offline, but there's like due diligence questions that I'm contemplating with that right now.
And in fact, that is largely why we decided to go with this as the first option, because by using Vertex AI with GCP, we are not introducing any additional sub-processors or other data sovereignty concerns around where the data is flowing. It starts in Google's network, it gets processed in Google's network, the result is in Google's network in the same region and zones as the data that is being processed for the site.
But if there's like HIPAA information or whatever, who is the owner, who's the data processor, who's representing to whom that your data is private? What is the contract with?
It's with Google, and it's part of our general sub-processing concerns and restrictions with Google in the same way that they don't have any more ability to use this information for their own purposes or exfiltrate it from their network than they do for the databases we store on Google Cloud.
Yeah.
Which introduces at least, I mean, there are still questions to answer for this, but there are fewer questions than if we were just integrating something like the GPT APIs from OpenAI, because then we would be sending this content outside of Google to another sub-processor. They would have access to it. We would have to establish for them that they're not using it to train their models, and then the result of it would be coming back to Google. We could do that, but we're starting with something that has a better story around the data sovereignty, because we have a lot of GDPR customers. We have customers that care about CCPA. We have a lot of higher ed customers that care about the data under other related regulations, and we're trying to minimize that effect. And also, it's not intrinsic to this product in the sense that you can use every aspect of this product without ever touching any of the AI tools.
You can disable it, and it's surely never used for training the LLM. That's only contextual. Like LLMs are used for summarization, but actually it's not training the LLM, and it's on paper as well. But your answer is perfect, and so you can use this typically for meta description. You can use this for finding headlines or titles, which I will just do. And what's also good is for things such as entity extraction. This is open tags, but I don't have this in this demo, but we will definitely add it at some point. Categorization, like when it's a closed taxonomy and you want to categorize automatically to automatically position maybe the article into a section on your information architecture. That's actually great. It's just suggesting things. You click and you can go, and it's ready to be ingested, basically. So then I go to publish, and then my content is published and is looking exactly like it was looking on the real-time preview. So that's a little bit the quick processing of content and the publishing workflow. There's something here you see which is quite interesting as well, which came with Google Docs. There's a video here, YouTube video. This was actually something in the document that I didn't highlight, but it's one of the features of the solution we're building. We are leveraging what Google called smart chips, which are those little things. You can do smart chips are basically they are basically a URL which contain parameters which are calling the components outside of the document, and in our case coming from the website. So if I want to add a new component in this document, I can do like this. I should actually, and probably will mess up with something being in suggestions. So
yeah, the suggestions do not make it out to the API until they're accepted.
Yeah. So when I do that, I can open content publisher component, and I can decide to insert in my Google Doc something which doesn't really belong to the doc, but more to the website. And sorry, I'm going too fast. They have to perfect a little bit their UI on the smart chip. But now I'm putting up components which are existing on my website, and I can decide to create a media preview, or let's say I want to add a newsletter capture. Like I can insert this here, newsletter.
And there was a question around versioning, and one of the things that is interesting to notice to this is even as he's adding these components, the published version is not affected until he republishes this content.
Yeah. The real-time preview that we have here, which is really cool, is real-time. Sometimes people tend to be scared that, oh, real-time, my content will always update my website, but that's not at all the model. The model is using a snapshot. So each time I publish, I create a new version, basically, in the content integration layer. So, and I think that's how it should be, because people are using this as a working space, and they want to decide when they want to publish. And so there's basically two dimensions to versioning. One is versioning my work here, and the other one is versioning what goes online. And you obviously want to manage those two things. So I was bringing those components here. They are belonging to the website. In that case, I was doing this demo on our playground, which is a Next.js website. So any component on the Next.js website could be pulled into the document. In the case of Drupal, the way we did it in our first module was to support SDC. So we support a single directory component, and they will be pulled in the document, basically. There's a bunch of other things here that I could stop, but I think I will not go into too much detail. Yes?
Is the published version in Drupal, or is it in the middle layer?
I will show you this. I will jump on this right now then. That's a good idea. For now, the published version is going to... I'll jump at the same time with my slide. I think it's actually very good because it allows to explain a little bit the architecture. So the way it works is, for now we develop the Google Docs client. We will develop other clients, by the way. I'll get back to that. But document is ingested, and is basically we are creating a SaaS service which is API first. So the most important thing for us are APIs. We have an API to ingest documents from Google Doc. Documents are stored in a Firestore, and they are also indexed by Vertex AI, which is powering the GenAI capabilities, but also powering search, like good, very good search, Google search, basically. And they are delivered to an endpoint, which is a GraphQL endpoint. So in the case of the three technology we support ourselves, it's a really different way to operate. In WordPress, because WordPress is designed in a different way than Drupal, we basically send the content to WordPress, and it becomes a post or a page, basically a post of any type in WordPress. And in WordPress, we also we override WordPress UI so that people can actually, when they click edit on this post, they go back to the Google Doc. So we try to maintain the source of truth, but we actually duplicate the content, and the content lives in the WordPress database. In the case of Drupal, that's not what we wanted to do at first. So our first version was to leverage the view system, and by plugging the view system on the GraphQL endpoint, instead of, usually it's done for maybe more the database or the search or Solar, but you can actually plug it on a GraphQL endpoint, which is remote, and then you build view with the view system of Drupal that are just read-only, basically displaying and caching the content. So that's how it works on the first version of the module. We are working on the second version, which is coming out actually very soon, where, of course, still using the GraphQL, but now we use entities. So everything in the content and all the meta that you see and everything will be an entity in Drupal using the search API of Drupal.
So anything you can do with entities in Drupal, you are able to use.
You can do relation, you can do search, you can do. Our initial implementation was fairly limited, and that's what I will demo, because you could not search for those articles because they are not either in the database or don't exist as entities, basically. So now we will be an entity, which means basically content will be like a good Drupal citizen piece of content, and you can do whatever you want with it. In the starter kit for Next.js, it's totally different, but we also wanted to make it simple for developers, so we have basically an SDK, and we have starter kits which make it so that you can basically spin up a Next.js website and you have almost nothing to do so that it's functional. So I can show you quickly on Drupal. Time is flying, so I should go fast, but I am on, I can show you this on, where is it?
I see views for Drupal.
Oh yeah. Well, first, before going there, I can. Do I have an article on Drupal? I will go to my shared drive. News. Yeah, I do have one actually. That's this one. So this one, instead of being plugged to our playground, is plugged to the Drupal website. So if I do a preview, you will see that my preview will be powered by Drupal. And the main difference, I should not have this line, by the way, and it should disappear. Or it would have, yeah, it did. We have a little bit of a latency in our first implementation, but it's still close to real time, correcting this. So all what I showed you before basically is working the same way, and this is working the same way because of the module which has been extended. I could show you the module. You basically install the module, you give the collection ID, and you give a token, which gives the right to access, and then the content is exposed to Drupal, and you will configure views. So let me also show quickly from the front-end perspective of things how this looks like. So this is actually quite important, because the way we see people using this is not to use it to power all the content of a website, but more sections. On this one, there's 2 sections which are powered by Content Publisher, like the courses. This is one, and the other section is the news section, which is, I think, a little bit lower, like this news. And we foresee, with all the people we've been talking to starting to use it, we foresee that's really the way this tool should be seen. It won't run all your website, because maybe the pixel perfect marketing landing page, that's not a good fit. You don't want to edit this in Google Doc. But anything like long form, articles, news, blogs, of course, documentation, knowledge bases, we think it's a good fit. And we think very often sections will have different persons behind this. So that's why on this example on Drupal, we have a website where a bunch of things are made with Drupal and 2 sections are made with Content Publisher. And those 2 sections, the users who are contributing, they don't even need a Drupal account. They just need a Google Workspace account. They don't even need to know what is Drupal. Which I can show you quickly how the middle of this look. Then I will show it to you here. So I have two collections on this website. This is my live collection where I organize all the content for the news, and the news are here. And now I'm taking the role not of the content creator, but more maybe the editor or the manager or the one who is in charge of the governance side of things. Maybe someone has been injecting content from Google Docs, but I have gated, I did not provide the rights to publish directly, so maybe I will approve documents here, or I will put them offline here. But as a content manager, we were at some point considering really doing all this in Google Drive, and that was hell. Like, Google is really good for creating content, but is terrible for organizing content. That's really one of our learnings. So we decided to build this thing, which looks a little bit like a headless content CMS, except that, again, the only thing you manage here is all the things which are meta. The core content is coming from another tool, Google Docs or something else. And here you can do all the same thing as you have seen before in my demo, so that's interesting. And you could basically validate, approve, include in search, remove from search, hide, and so on. So yeah, for the question about Drupal more specifically, you have views here which are configured. Basically, you have the news which are here. If I edit this, there's probably the list page where I define what I want to see from my content in the list page. And then there's the item page, or the full view, which is where I decide what to show. And speaking of workflow, of course, now you need a Drupal developer to theme or template your page, like any Drupal development, basically. Down the road, we want to provide recipes, because we could provide recipes that makes it even faster with the new system of recipes. But for us, the basics stop somehow here, and then it's the Drupal team taking over. If you're curious about the WordPress side of thing, I have a WordPress site running here, which is basically a newspaper. So I mean newsroom. In WordPress, it's different because you really, as I was mentioning, you really bring the content in WordPress. So when you look at your posts, you have a little icon that indicates it's coming from Content Publisher, and you can basically go back to the source and create a new revision of your content right there and republish. And again, exactly the same, I'm authorizing, exactly the same capabilities for the tool to behave.
You're saying it so diplomatically, but the actual underpinning issue is that the APIs in WordPress are a lot less flexible than the ones in Drupal.
Oh yeah.
Like the way we do it in Drupal is actually kind of the way we want to do it, which is to not like clone the content everywhere, but to allow one piece of the content to maintain its canonical authoritative status, and then to expose it as entities or data in views, so that then it can be integrated with the rest of the Drupal site and infrastructure.
It's 3:42, so I guess I'll get back to a couple of things on the slide. But that was the demo, basically a new approach to authoring content for the web. One thing I want to say is I briefly talk about that, but it needs to be clear we are not trying to do a new universal CMS, thinking about .cms. Actually, I think the way content management is going is more segmenting the use cases. And this tool, Google Docs, specifically great for long-form content, news, blog articles, knowledge-based documentation, intranet. We found a lot of interest in news media, higher ed, and also brand marketing dealing with a ton of product notices and so on. We have an open roadmap. If you are interested, we have a global roadmap at Pantheon. We also have a dedicated roadmap for this product. Feel free to go there. I want to raise the fact that what we are releasing next week is a content ingest API, which means that people who are interested to do the same thing as what we did with Google Docs could do it with what they use, basically. So someone wants to do, I think we probably would do it for Microsoft, but some people want to do it. I think someone wanted to do it for Notion. That would be great. We try to also build on the ecosystem and trying to have some partners, because we are not that big a company. We will not do it for all the tools of the world. And just to close up on our vision, I already presented this slide, but by decoupling, this is more conceptual, but by decoupling content from really where it runs, we have something we want to achieve, which actually I want to first look at that. When we look at workflow today, we think that the part which relates to development, code workflow, is fairly well under control. Like the progress of version control systems, GitHub, and so on. At Pantheon, we are doing a lot of evolution there. David, you know probably more than me, but things such as allowing people to work with GitHub, external version control, these type of things, provide more options for people to work the way they want. But overall, the DevOps side of things is fairly under control. And with it is kind of coming design, because design translates into code fairly easily, and there's more and more tools that are bringing design systems into code in an almost automated way. For us, the problem was content. Content as editorial content, which I spoke about, and also more like marketing content, which needs landing page design. We don't know exactly how to tackle, but the goal we want to provide on the platform at some point is to hook this system together with our multi-dev and our version control system, so that organizations could actually, really using the Git mindset, branch a project, start to work on content, code, and design in a silo, which is the project, but it's not a silo that is hard to break, because it's a silo that, like you merge a change request, you could merge back to your website. So we want to provide a unified workflow and unified version control for both content and design, and that's why also we are building this integration layer. I think I'm at time, 3:45 exactly. I think I was quite on time, even if I didn't prepare. Yeah. So that was it for me. If you have questions, I'm happy to take more. To David also, because you did most of the job. Any question?